So let's give a big welcome to Professor Gilda.
All right, thanks for having me to give a short introduction, okay, for Nanophotonics. Sorry for the delay because last year, I came here around 7:30, so I think it should start 7:30 and at 9. So luckily, I got the phone call, okay, so I made it on time. All right, today I will introduce you two topics, okay. It's all about nanophotonics. What can you do with the photonics, and why nanophotonics? So the first topic is the green energy application, and I know that most of you are in the business area. So this green energy, has lots of market values. Okay, and the second major application is the biomedical sensing and imaging, and this is another big market, okay, for this photonics industry. So let me first start with the green energy application. Okay, so nanotechnology, they are originating from something you might be familiar with. That's your watch. Okay, so originally, okay, in the 90s, okay, the Swiss watch, okay, they start to make it smaller and smaller and make it more functional. So they have to improve their machine precision, and so that they can pack more function into the watch. Say for example, okay, you can have all this, high precision second running, and also you can include the days, years into your mechanical watch. Okay, and that's why they are so expensive these days. Well, so during that process, the miniaturization is very important for them to keep all these functions and improving. But when they develop to a certain stage, okay, another competitor come up, and that's a paradigm shift. Okay, the competitor actually they start from a silicon-based industry. While the silicon they developed in the early days, okay, for the computers. But Japanese guy think about this. Hey, we can use the simple silicon technology to make cheap watch and very high precision for timing. So the Japanese guy, Casio, okay, make this electronic digital watch. Okay, they just make this simple semiconductor using the very simple transistors and make the hard core of this electronics watch. And because of this electronic technology, which relies heavily on the silicon technology, and they improve, and they can pack more and more functions into this watch. And eventually, the mass production in the semiconductor eventually, surpass this machining industry. So the Casio or the electronic watch, prevailed in all this, watch industry. But all these two approach, okay, one is purely from the machining, okay, another one is based on the silicon industry. They all has one purpose, that's make things smaller. Smaller, then you have more function, and you can include a more, powerful processor to process more informations, okay? And those information generated, okay, then you will require, hey, how can I transmit these data? Okay? And of course, nowadays, this is not just watch, okay? The watch, now the Apple come up with the iWatch, okay? iWatch, what you can do? Oh, you can email, okay? You can just browser, okay? Use the browser to search. So you can have more and more information. So it demands for more data storage. So how can you store a lot of things in the watch, okay? And you also need to transmit. So how can I have a high efficient and high capacity transmission? And after all this high emission, high volume data, and you need to process it. So when you need to process all this data, what's the most efficient way to process it? Is that using just the regular electronics processing, or there is another way, okay, to have a more efficient processing? And all these things require what? Energy. So far, okay, around the globe, there are 10% of energy is consumed by our communication. Say for example, telecommunications, okay, and your the fibers, okay, and the cell phones and all other things. Eventually, this energy consumption from all this digital information will increase. And when it increased, how can we do with all this power? Okay, where does the power come from? So the solution, well, maybe people think about, hey, let's just make things smaller. Because when you make things smaller, there will be more, information, more area that you can explore, and there will be more cheap solutions. So that's why nanotechnology becomes so popular and so important in this modern industry. So why make small things smaller is good? So why small size matters? Okay. Well, there's just 3 examples just tell you, well, why small size will give you a lot of advantages. First, that's what we just mentioned. That's for small size, you can have higher packing density. Okay. Here's this one example of silicon semiconductor industry. Their fabrication technology improved from generation to generation. And the current generation Intel use is what? 22 nanometers fabrication. That means gate to gate distance is 22 nanometers. So if you think about this 22 nanometers, and how many things you can pack in a small area. Say for example, for a typical chip, okay, for a CPU chip, here, okay, the die size, the chip size, actually is just millimeter by millimeters. So if you think about in 1 millimeter by 1 millimeters, okay, inside here, okay, how many things you can pack with this 22 nanometer technology? Well, if you calculate that, okay, not familiar with this remote control. It's 2 billion transistors you can pack inside this 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter die size. Okay. For earlier generation, say for example 1 micron, okay, which is, I don't know, very, very early generations, okay, maybe in late 80s, okay, late 80s, they can only pack 1 million transistors in the same size of the wafer. So with this increase, okay, your information storage increased by 2,000 times. Okay. So you can pack 2,000 times more transistors in just the same size of the wafer. So more function, 2,000 more functions, okay, or 2,000 times more powerful processors can be included in your processors. So this is one very important advantage. You can have higher packing density, so more functions. Another thing is that it's a lower power loss. Okay. Why, when you make things smaller, your power will be lost, will be less. Okay. Well, in this electronics industry, we know that you need to move electrons. Okay? So you need to provide something so-called electric field. Okay? Electric field to drive it. And how can we provide this electric field? Well, we know just provide some power supply or just the cells, okay, power cells to drive this current. So the voltage, okay, which is what you have, okay, from your power supply, 12 volt, 5 volts, or 1.5 volts of your regular cells. So voltage is fixed. But if you make things smaller, that's the distance d here smaller, then you can provide very large electric field. So with the same power voltage drop, okay, but applied to a small distance, then you can generate large electric field to drive electrons. So with small distance, we can achieve larger E, or achieve the same E with the lower voltage. And we know that for low voltage, there will be lower loss, power loss. Okay? And that's why the semiconductor industry is trying to make the driving voltage smaller and smaller. Say for example, earlier in this DRAM industry, which is driving with 3 volt, and then drop down. Okay, now it's like a 1.3 volt. Okay, 3 volt. So this will make the loss, okay, power loss smaller. And the third example is to have a higher sensitivity. And this is very simple formula. Okay, just from your elementary or high school physics. Okay, F equal to ma. Okay, that's the force equal to mass multiplied by the acceleration. So when the thing is smaller, that means what? The mass is smaller. Okay, so it's tiny stuff. Okay, you can move it. Okay, with generate the acceleration. So for a smaller mass, okay, if you want to generate, okay, some motion, which means the acceleration, how fast you move, okay, or how fast you can be triggered, okay, then you just need a tiny force to push this mass, and then you can gain some acceleration and have some speed. So you can sense, hey, something is moving, okay, with very small force. Okay, if your sensor has very small mass. So this makes it very sensitive, okay, to small force. So what's the application? Well, most of you have a smartphone, and when you flip the phone, okay, the screen will rotate, okay, and there is a sensor there. Okay, I said this is so-called a gyroscope. Okay, and the gyroscope just sense where you move. Okay, if you change away from your original direction, then it will sense, okay, there is a slight change. Okay. So you can incorporate that high sensitivity into your small cell phone with very tiny package. Okay. And this is also applied in your GPS. Okay. GPS is also using this so-called gyroscope to maintain, okay, or to know which direction you are going. Another sensing is using the same idea, okay, in the airbag. Okay. In the airbag, okay, you have a collision, and if you have the sensor very small mass, okay, even a small force, you can generate some acceleration, and you can sense the collision, okay, immediately, and then explode the airbag to protect the passengers. So for all these things, okay, just three, okay, you already know that when things get smaller, there is lots of advantages. So let's start to see, what are those areas. So I listed 5 here. Okay, the first one is the communication. Okay, how can we improve the bandwidth of the communication using photonics and nanophotonics? Another thing is the lithography. Okay, that's to make semiconductor devices. How can we make semiconductor devices smaller? Okay, using this so-called lithography. Well, in a simple way, lithography means that, okay, if I have a circuit design already here, okay, how can I transfer this wafer, this circuit design into the wafer? Okay, I can use the so-called optical lithography to transfer the pattern, okay, design for this complicated circuit into the wafer. So for technology to have 22 nanometer feature size, then you need to have very high precision lithography. And later we'll talk about what's the current status and what's the challenge that's faced. That's currently Intel and the TSMC has. And another application is the lighting. Okay. So here, okay, so far we don't have LED yet, okay, but for the nanotechnology, you can improve the efficiency of this lighting system, and then you can save a lot of energies. Okay. So for the green energy, okay, one is to save energy, another one is to generate energy. So how can you generate energy? Okay. So we can talk about this energy harvesting and conversion from the solar. So how can we use nanotechnology to improve, okay, the electricity generation using these solar cells? And the last topic is the biomedical applications. So let me just bring up the first topic. Okay, how can we improve this bandwidth for the transmission? So earlier we talked about this data generation and data processing, and all this information, okay, can be greatly improved by this nanotechnology with the smaller size. But let's see, when we need to transmit all these informations, okay, what kind of method we can use? Well, the first, the traditional one is telephone. Telephone line. Okay, here is the switch office, and in the old time, people still using hand to switch this A line to B line, and the bandwidth is just about kilobit per second. Okay, kilobit per second. And in the earlier time, okay, of internet development, people use the dial-up. So the fastest speed you can get is like 56K bit per second. Okay. And also it's limited by the transmission distance. Okay. At most 1 kilometer, then the signal drops, and you need to put up the signal to have the power station and to increase the signal. So you see, if you want to transmit your signal from one place, okay, say for example from Taipei to Tainan, how many power stations in between you need, okay, to keep your signal clear. So here, that is, the bandwidth, okay, is quite limited. And also the transmission distance is too short. And how about this directionality and security? Well, for a telephone line, in the early times, it's easier to be eardropped, okay, and just tap it online, and then you can catch the signals, okay. So there's no security for this telephone line. Of course, there's the direction, okay, where the line goes, it goes to the destination you want. So people are not satisfied with this telephone line, so they invent something so-called the radio, RF, okay, radio frequency. And the radio, so far, the technology you have is your cell phone. Okay? The cell phone, the transmission data rate is megabit per second. Okay? So you can have the download like 50 megabit per second, okay, for your 3.5G generations. And let's talk about the broadcast distance. It's about 10 kilometers. So after 10 kilometers, the cell phone company need to have some station there, okay, to boost the signals. And for security, there is no security, okay, unless you do the encryption, okay, to add the secrecy in your data, and so people cannot decrypt your data. Okay. And also, there's no direction, so it's not very efficient. It's broadcasting, okay, so energy is lost everywhere. Okay. So this is not efficient, but for broadcasting, that's very good. But the speed is the data transmission speed is not high. Okay. So what can we improve on that? Okay, and then people come up with this so-called coaxial cable, and this is what you have currently. Most of you, okay, have this at home for the internet connection. Okay. And that's the same for you to use the cable TV. So the company send a cable TV signal here, and also your internet signal in the same wire. And the data can go up to gigabit. So that's the highest data capability that you can have for this cable. But it also suffered from this so-called repeated distance. So after 1 kilometer, okay, then you need to have a power station to boost up your signals. Okay. And security, okay, that's better, okay, because it's coaxial. The outer, why is it called coaxial? Well, there's a wire in the middle, and there is also a sheet of metal covering it. So the transmitted data, okay, is fully confined inside this outer shell. So it's not easy to eardrop, okay, your signal. For this wire, okay, there's current running through this wire, so it radiates, so people can tap it. Okay, just put another wire nearby. Here, if you put another wire nearby, you cannot get a signal away from that. Alright, so this gigabit, but these days, there are so many websites on the internet, there are so many information on the internet, okay, you want to download a movie and load all these things, it's too slow. So you have to go for a next technology, which is so-called fiber optics. So the fiber optics, okay, you can go up 1,000 times from the current cable technology. So you can have terabit per second, okay, terabit per second. So you can download the whole library, okay, in just 1 minute, okay, 1 minute. And the distance is very, very long. Say, for example, transocean fiber optics, and you only need repeaters, okay, about like 1,000 kilometers, well, or maybe less, okay, maybe like 400 kilometers, okay. And it's also very secure, okay, because it's confined inside this fiber, so unless you can cut it, okay, otherwise you cannot get a signal out. So there is a high security. So you can see that in the old time, okay, or the old generation of technology in communication, all use electrons. Okay. This is the telephone line, it's current, okay, cell phone, which is the electron oscillating, and so it radiates. Okay. Here the cable also sends some the RF signal, but confined in the cable. So all these are using the electronics. Okay, that's the electrons moving inside this wire, but it suffers one thing. Okay, all these wires has loss. Okay, so for example, ohm loss. That's why it generates heat. Okay. So all these things suffer from the short distance communication. The fiber optics, okay, we use photons, and the photons has really low loss. Okay, when they propagate within this so-called tiny flex wire, and this will save you a lot of energies. Okay. So here I list a comparison to compare the electrons and photons. So here was this one thing that's called a resolution. Okay, you can use electron to see something. Okay, I use photon to see something, and here I also compare the cost. Okay, and how to control it, and that has the scaling and the bandwidth. Okay, and the interference, and how can you easy eardrop the signal. So we talked about the bandwidth earlier. Okay, so the electrons, the most bandwidth you can get is about gigahertz. Okay, but photonics you can get terahertz and even above. Okay, so the optical frequency is about 100 terahertz. So the information you can carry is about 100,000 times more than all these electrons that you have. So this is an advantage for photonics. Okay, and another advantage is that there are no interference between the signal when you transmit with the photons. So that there is no electromagnetic interference. So it's also good for so-called polarization. That is, inside one fiber, okay, you can not only transmit one channel, right? You can transmit many channels because all those channels won't interfere. Okay, won't interfere. Okay, so that's the advantage for using photonics. But there are bad things for photonics too. Okay, say for example, resolution. For the traditional optical microscope, you can see only about 1 micron or at best, okay, to 200 nanometers. You cannot see any further down. Okay, but using the electronic microscope, you can see very small size. Say for example, 1 nanometer. And the cost, okay, for electrons. Well, electrons everywhere. Okay, inside any metal, semiconductors, there are electrons. Okay, and they exist. And it's easy to move. Just apply some voltage or just put the power supply there, the electrons move. Okay. The photon is expensive. Okay. The photon comes here, then hit my suit, and then it absorbs. Okay, it's gone. So you need to generate. Okay, so it's expensive. Okay, and also not easy to capture and not easy to move the photon. When the photon comes here, okay, I direct it in the other direction. Okay, it's not easy. Okay, using a mirror while it just bouncing in other directions. Okay, so it's not easy to control. Okay. For electrons, okay, you can have large gates, okay, and all the semiconductor transistors to control it, so it's very easy. Okay. A photon, to control it, it's not easy. Okay, you need to use so-called this nonlinear phenomenon. Okay, that is you need to have high power. Anything about nonlinear, and you can connect it with that. I need more power. Okay, to control that. Okay, and scaling. Okay, for the electrons, the semiconductor more slow, right? So there's doubling of the capability every 18 months. But for photons, there is no. Okay, but even though with all this disadvantage for photonics, okay, but with these two, okay, it's good enough, okay, to provide a lot of advantages using the photonic system. So, for example, the fiber-optic communication, okay, first, okay, was enabled due to the invention of lasers. Okay. In the 1960s, okay, laser invented, and also the low-loss fiber, okay, is proposed by this Chinese guy, Dao Kun. He won the Nobel Prize in 2008. Okay, I think. Okay. So with this fiber optics, okay, system available, okay, and this generate a lot of things. Say for example, okay, World Wide Web. Okay, without fibers, this World Wide Web will not work. Okay, and to current 2000, okay, 21st century, all this data generated in the website, okay, all rely on these fibers, okay, communications. Okay. All right, so how can we accommodate all this high transmission data? As I said, the photon can process parallelly. So within a single fiber, okay, you can put all different channels inside one fiber, and just put some devices here, okay, to route it to different places. So for example, here, okay, I can route 16 channels inside the fiber already laid 10 years ago, okay. But here I just use some so-called junctions, okay, to spread different wavelengths, okay, to different places we want. So this immediately increased the capability, okay, by 16 times. Okay. And the current record, you can pack 160 channels just in one fiber. Okay. So the channel increased and the data just increased linearly. Okay. So that's how we improve this data transmission requirement. Okay. And how can we make these things? Okay. We have to make the nanotechnology to have very high precision to select the wavelengths. Okay, so for example, in these channels, the one channel from the other channel, the wavelength difference probably is only about 0.2 nanometer wavelengths. Okay, so you need to have a very high precision photonic devices to select the right wavelengths to the right place. All right, so this information, okay, need to be processed. Okay, processed here. Traditionally, what we process this signal is using so-called photon to electron to photon. What does that mean? That is, the photon signal was converted to electrons, and the electron signal was processed by your computer, and the computer said, this is going to that building, and then it generates another photon. Okay, using a laser, okay, to send signal there. So during this conversion process, it's very energy consumption. Okay, because you destroy a photon and then create another photon. Okay, so this is not good. So this conversion, okay, is not very efficient. So we can make all this conversion from electric signal to optical signal, and that's why you use these optical devices here. Okay, you don't need to convert this optical signal into electrons and then route it. You can route this signal directly using the photonic devices. So this saves lots of energy. Okay, so there you won't see lots of this kind of small box on the side road. Okay, which will provide all this electricity to do this electronic signal regeneration and routing. Okay, but in the optics, it's very simple. Just one simple passive optical devices you can route it. All right, so how can we use this, for further for our current technology? Well, there's one thing you can use. Okay, nowadays in the computer chip, okay, there will be more and more processors. In your iPhone, okay, there are 4 core. In your iPad, there are 4 core, 8 core. Okay, but the communication between those core, okay, is still using the metal wire, and this metal wire will interfere with each other. Okay, and also generate heat. So how can you improve that? Well, we can just replace the metal wire by just several optical fibers. Okay, so with several optical fibers, you can just transmit all these data efficiently, and you can route it. Okay, always the technology that we just mentioned. Okay, so with these photonics devices, okay, using the nanotechnology, we can improve all these bandwidths. Okay, and of course, what's the future? Okay, the future is that we can optical computer. Okay, everything is processed using the photons. Okay, there is no need for electronics. All right, so this is one part that nanophotonics can provide, okay, which is to provide a very cheap, okay, method to provide very large bandwidth. Okay. So when we talk about this nanotechnology, nanophotonics, then we need to compare it, okay, the traditional photonics, okay, and the nanophotonics. What's the difference? Okay. So here I list 4. Okay. One example is to do the imaging. Okay. Using the traditional optics, then what you know is about the length. Okay. Just like your eyeglasses or your the lens in your iPhone, okay, to take pictures. It suffers one thing so-called this aberration. That means the image is not cleared around the edge of your lens. Okay, so this is not good. Okay, and that's why for your high-end camera, okay, they lots of lens to correct all these aberrations. Okay. But for nanophotonics, well, we can make so-called the perfect lens. Okay, just with these nano features, okay, the image can perfect the image from one place to the other place, and without any distortion and blurring. So nanophotonics can improve upon this image. And for the microscope, okay, the traditional one is just limited to this wavelength. Okay, so it's micron, so it's about 200 nanometers. But for this nanophotonics, I can see something even smaller. Okay, so electronics microscope came down to 1 nanometer. So, and the traditional microscope cannot be that because the resolution is too high. The resolution is 200 nanometer. So you cannot be with electronics. But with nanotechnology, you can see things down to 10 nanometers. Okay, 10 nanometers. So that's one thing we can catch up with the electronics system. And why this is an advantage? Even though the resolution is not that good, but there is one big advantage over the electronics microscope. Because for the electron microscope, you need to put your observer, okay, or your samples in vacuum. So it's not good for bio application. Okay, for a virus, you want to see, in vivo. Okay, and it's not, it's impossible. Okay, so you want to see how this virus grows or die or evolve. Then you have to use optical. Okay, you cannot put it into the high vacuum electronics microscope. Okay, you have to use optical. So that's why this optical microscope has large advantage in its bio images. For the transmission, okay, originally we mentioned about this optical fibers. Okay, you can have our capability to transmit lots of data, but there is a limitation. Okay, when you wire this fiber in your building, okay, you have to be careful to bend it. You cannot bend it too sharp. Okay, the bending radius is about centimeter. Okay, so you cannot just say, hey, I want to have a 90-degree bend here. Okay, and just brute forcefully put your fibers around the table, it breaks. Okay, it breaks. So how can we improve that? Because if I want to route the things in this so-called chip, okay, the chip is very small size. It's much smaller than a centimeter. How can I route it? Okay, and then you can use so-called nanotechnology. We use so-called photonic crystals, okay, which can bend things in submicron. So it's about 100 nanometer, and you can run around the optical signals. So nanophotonics can provide that. For lightning, okay, for traditional optics, okay, the good example is the light bulb, okay, which has very, very low efficiency, okay, 5% only. Okay, 95% become heat. And also other wavelengths that's useless because we can access the other wavelengths other than visible. So the efficiency is very, very low. Okay? But the reason why it's very, very low is that it's just made of tungsten or other wire, which is a bulk material. Okay, a bulk material which will radiate all directions. But if you make nanostructures, okay, using nanophotonix, then you can find it. So they can only emit in certain wavelengths in certain direction. And efficiency can go up to 80%. And that's why these days, the government is promoting using the LED, okay? Because the energy efficiency is very, very high. That means you put 1 watt, okay, into your LED, then 180 watts, okay, of light, okay, in terms of photon, okay, will generate. So with the nanotechnology, you have very, very high efficiency, okay, for lighting. And for sensing, well, the old time, okay, people using this bio imaging, they put so-called fluorescence marker, okay, which is some molecule will emit different kind of colors, okay, exciting. In that case, this fluorescence marker is really, really big. Okay? If you want to sense something which is molecule level, okay, But if your marker is 1,000 times larger than that, you cannot see where it is. Okay, there are several these molecules around. So in the old time, this fluorescence marker has very poor resolutions. But in the nanophotonics, you can make something smaller. So the marker could be nanoparticles, which is just several nanometers. So one particle here, then you can sense nanometer resolution. So using this biomarker, then you can have very high sensing image precision. So that's why nanophotonics find a lot of advantage over the traditional optics. The other application is so-called lithography, and that's the semiconductor industry they heavily relied on. That lithography, what I say, is just to transfer the circuit you designed into your wafer. So if you transmit that into a wafer, and then the place which is required will stay, and the other place will just be removed later. So this provides some so-called parallelization for mass production, because you just need to design one circuit pattern, and then you can use this so-called optical system to expose it 100 times, 1,000 times quickly. Well, one example is to compare how long it takes to write this pattern. When you design this pattern, you can use so-called electron beam to write it, which has very high precision, right? But when you write one wafer, 8-inch wafer, it takes 16 hours. 16 hours for this high precision electron beam to write the pattern. So 1 hour you can only produce one wafer. Then how can TSMC produce 100,000 wafers per month, right? So they rely on this so-called optical lithography. That is, once you have this pattern produced by this slow electronics pattern, then you use the optical system to expose it to optical lights, and the image will just transfer from here to the wafer. And here you just use some so-called the photosensitive material. So just like your traditional camera film, so you can expose it to the lighting, and it just be developed and removed. So this production is very quick. In 1 minute, you can produce a wafer. So the exposure time is very short. So you can have a mass production. So this one is what makes semiconductors so profitable, because once you design a circuit, you can make hundreds, millions devices quickly. So this semiconductor requires this slow production of mass, but you use the optical lithography, you can make it very quick. So the current 22 nanometer technology, they use what so-called deep UV resolution, which has a very short wavelength, which is about the ultraviolet wavelength regime. So it's about 193 nanometer. And this is much larger than the so-called 22 nanometer resolution, because from the traditional technology, the resolution is about half of the wavelength, so it's about 200 nanometers for visible. For here, if you divide it by 2, you can at most get to what? 90-something nanometer technology. But TSMC come up with a very smart solution, and they add some water inside here. So with the water, which has some so-called higher refractive index, they make the wavelengths look shorter inside this water. So they make the resolution higher. But it will meet some limitation when you go down to this sub-20 nanometer resolution. So what's the solution people come up? They say, hey, let's check different lights. So they use so-called extremely ultraviolet light, which is very short wavelength. So if you divide it by 2, hey, you can get down to 6 nanometers, resolutions. But this is very difficult to make the light source. So currently, Intel, Samsung, and TSMC is trying to do this, but they delay their production date, because this light source, first, it's very hard to produce. It's not stable, and the light intensity is not strong enough. So what's the solution? You can use so-called nanotechnology, okay? So-called nanoparticle perfect length, okay, to make this imaging transfer from the circuits, okay, to the wafer, okay, precisely. And what's the secret inside here? Well, it's not much, okay? It just put some nanostructured metal here. This metal, okay, has some certain patterning, so it can produce so-called negative refractive index, such that with a flat material, okay, which has this kind of negative refractive index property, we can have one image perfectly produced on the other side. There's no aberration because the traditional optics using not flat lens but the curved lens. And this curved lens just has some errors, okay, between the middle one and the outside region. So with this flat lens, there's no distortions, and you can perfectly image it from one side to the other. So you can put this pattern, okay, into here, okay, okay. Although the current technology is not, well polished, but eventually it will come to, mass production performance. Okay, so this is one solution, okay, using nanotechnology to overcome the biggest challenges in semiconductors. All right, so this is about all this, semiconductor, all the things. Okay, another thing related to all this semiconductor is lighting, LED. Okay, so all this flat panel display. Okay, now it becomes so thin. And why that make it so thin? Because in the old time, when you had this display, a light source is using the fluorescence light, which is just this kind of fluorescence light there. Okay, it's the fluorescence light there is a tube, which is contained with molecules, okay, which is toxic. Okay, so this one, okay, make it big. Okay, let's make it big. But if you replace by LED, which is made of semiconductors, this is the structure. Okay, the LED it look big on the outside, but the device where it emits light is very, very tiny. Okay, it's just a couple nanometers that will emit the light. Okay. Of course, the package somewhat limited to dissipate the heat, so it's about millimeters. But it's very the working regime is very, very small. It's about nanometers. Why that makes it so efficient? The reason is that in the bulk, okay, there's no confinement, so the light can emit anywhere. But if you make the device to a thin slice, then there is a certain energy it can emit. I mean, certain wavelengths it can emit, not all the wavelengths it can emit. That is so-called the quantum confinement. Okay. Then you can think about this, hey, I use one semiconductor here, okay, another semiconductor here, and sandwiched by this green colored material. Okay. Then because of the materials different, so they produce so-called some band gap, okay, the band structures. And then with this dip, okay, the different region, due to these fine confinements of small size, it become quantized, okay. And quantized means, hey, I can only emit to certain wavelengths. And then make the emission very, very efficient. So if you make it not two dimension but one dimension, wide, okay, it has higher emission efficiency and precisely emit where you want of your wavelengths. If you put it dots, just one single dot, and then its data function means anything can emit is related to its size. Okay, so your size will determine where you emit, and everything, okay, original emit to every wavelength will confine to certain wavelengths. And that's why this LED is so high efficient. Okay? And how can we make this confinement? Nanotechnology. Okay? Only the nanotechnology can confine, okay, these structures, electronics, and to emit the wavelengths in the visible region. So that's third area that nanotechnology can provide for the improvement of the lighting. Well, the lighting has another aspect, okay, that can utilize nanotechnology. That is, once you generate these photons efficiently, how can you emit outside? Well, one way is that, well, earlier here, okay, you can emit it, okay, you can fly in certain direction and then emit it, to where you want to see it, okay. But there's another way to make it smaller. That you can put nanostructures on top of it. So the light emitted, okay, will come out directly, okay. Because if you don't have this kind of structure, but just have pure, perfect structure there, the photon will bounce, okay. So it will not be extracted outside. It will just confine inside here, okay. So this reduces your efficiency. But if you make some nanostructures, here or this nanostructure like fine crystal, then you can extract this light very efficiently. So you can make some rough surface using nanotechnology or using some periodic structure that you can design where it will be emitted. And so that makes the LED even more efficient. Okay. So how can we make this kind of nanostructures? Okay. This is so-called fine crystal structures. Okay. I think in the first lecture, okay, Professor Chen also mentioned about this fine crystal. This volcanic crystal is made of periodic structure, okay, of this tiny material. Okay, so this whole is about 100 nanometers. Okay. Right. So this exists in the nature. Okay, say for example here, okay, in the feather, okay, of your butterfly, okay, it's made of nanostructures. It's periodic, okay. And the peacock, okay, you can use the electron microscope to see the detail. It has, sub-wavelength features, which is about 100 nanometers. So nature can grow it, okay, without any nanotechnology, with any semiconductor technology. But how can we do this? Okay, how can we do this? Well, we can use semiconductor or processing technology to design all this periodic structure to make it so-called, the function we want. Say for example, this blue color, okay, you want to what? You want to reflect the blue color, but then the other wavelengths or the other red light, green light to pass through it. So you need to, design the distance well and the size well. So you can use semiconductor processing, okay, to make this periodic structure. But we know semiconductor processing is purely two-dimensional. It's not easy to make this, periodic in all three dimensions. So for a semiconductor to make this multi-layer is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. So this is very, very difficult to produce. Okay, this is in 2000. People can make this to have, certain wavelengths. There's no light can be transmitted, so it be reflecting. So here listed, how can you do this multi-layer processing? Okay, so it's not just one-time exposure. You have to do it multiple times. Okay, every 3 times to make these structures available. Okay. So this is very difficult. A lot of people make this so-called wood pile. Okay, so they have to pay one layer, another layer, and another layer. Okay, and they can make this so-called the band gap, so you can reflect blue light only, but then the other wavelengths transmitted. Okay. Another thing that people can make is using so-called holographic technology, just using the 4 beam, okay, to mix them together, interfere, and they can make these periodic structures. Okay. In this method, you can make a large area. Okay. And this is all 100 nanometer size features. And for chemistry, okay, they want to make it simpler. So they make this so-called silicon nanoparticles, okay, which is less than 1 micron. And then that it just, dissolved and eventually sit down at the bottom. And they will so-called self-assemble to form a crystal structure. Okay. So here is an example. Okay, then they form periodic structures, and they provide this band gap that reflect only the blue lights. And they can invert it, okay, so okay, put here, and something here, okay, and then produce the required wavelengths you want to have the reflections. Okay. And here is another example, okay, they use the chemistry, okay, evaporation, so they can adhere to the substrates that you want. Okay. And here is another example, okay, they can make it. Okay. And here is just the inverse of the earlier structure. So this is the nanotechnology. We can make all these nano features, okay, and to have all the functionalities you want. Say for example, okay, here I can have a refraction. And if I design something with a defect here, then the light can just be routed along the defect you want. Say for example, I put some channels here. When I do the fabrication, I can put some defects here. So the light can just be guided along this defect channel. And the light can come here and then bend it 90 degrees in the other directions. So that's the advantage of using this nanotechnology. Okay. Here just one example, the photon crystal. But there are many applications. And here is another example. You can just produce this kind of rotation. Then just using this so-called the glazing deposition. So there are all other different technologies that can produce all these things. All right. So with all this technology, how can we apply to the energy part? Energy part. Well, the hot topic, is the renewable energy these days. The U.S. fundings put a lot of money into this subject, renewable energies. And China, Germany, also put a lot of funding to develop renewable energies. And you can see, the stock for this renewable energy, rise sharply, in this mid 2000 to 2010, but it dropped quickly due to this financial crisis. But eventually it will pick up. It will pick up. One renewable energy you can think about is what? Solar energy. So you can think about it as solar cell. But there is also other renewable energy. Like wind power, or the simplest one, the oldest one, that is the photosynthesis. So I will talk about mainly focus on this part for today because it's related to the photonics technology. So how can we deal with that? Well, that's about the energy harvesting from the sun. So we have to learn something about the sun. The sun will emit lots of different wavelengths of different colors. Here is the spectrum of the sun emission. So you can see that it's peaked around where? The visible. And that's why the human eye developed to have the sensor in this visible region. So you can see things clear because there's lots of photons bouncing around in the environment, so we can have a high sensitivity. So if we can capture here, well, that's good. But there's also a lot of energy in other different wavelengths. Other different wavelengths. So how can we capture all these different wavelengths from this ultraviolet to visible to infrared and far infrared? Well, you might notice something. Well, why is not a smooth curve, right? There's a lot of dips, here. This is measured on the surface of the Earth. So the missing part is being absorbed by the molecule in the atmosphere. So you don't see it as a smooth curve. But that's what we need to capture. So how can I capture all these wavelengths from the sun? Well, if you calculate the total power transmitted from the sun to the Earth in just 1 meter squared, how much power you get? It's about 1,000 kilowatt. It means 1,000 watt per second in just 1 meter squared. Wow. How does that translate to your daily usage? Say for example, for your air conditioner, what's the power consumption? It's about like 2,000 kilowatts. So you just need to have high efficiency for the solar panel, about 2 meters squared, and you can produce free energy to power your air conditioner. So the solar power is huge. It's huge. So if you cover the 1/100th of the Taiwan's area, how many power you can generate? It's amazing. It's amazing. So if you can capture all these things, from the sun, then you don't need any nuclear power plant. We don't need, like a wind power plant, okay, or using the fossil fuel power plant. Okay. So how can we do that? Okay, how can we do that? So the wavelength range is from 300 nanometer to 4,000 nanometers. So how can we capture those things? Okay. Well, if you look at the distribution of the sunlight, okay, here the darker area means there will be more power radiated into the surface, and here means that the total power means that in one day, okay, how many kilowatts you can get per 1 meter square. So for this red area, in one day, in 1 millimeter, okay, you can get up to 6.9 kilowatt, okay, times kilowatt, okay, that means kilowatt times hours, okay. So you can see it's a lot, okay. 1 hour is 3,600 seconds, so it's a lot, and times 6, so it's a lot of power, okay, you can get for these areas, okay. Of course, in North America, okay, it's a little bit less, but still high, okay, still good enough, okay, to generate lots of energy. So this is a big industry, so lots of people jump in, okay, to do your solar cell. So this list, so-called top 10 solar cell manufacturer last year, okay, see, China is coming up, okay. Originally the U.S. okay, dominating the market, okay, but the China they use poor or a little bit poor technology, and they use the low cost to gain the market share. So see the top 5 company 4 is from China. Okay. All these companies, okay, they use silicon-based technology to generate these solar panels, but the efficiency is not high. It's not high. Okay. So let's see how can we do that. So in order to to access all this wavelengths, you need to use different materials. Okay. Here list some of materials like silicon. Okay, can only absorb the wavelengths around this yellow region. Okay. And for other things like dye molecule, okay, you can choose different dye molecule. You can absorb in the visible region. Okay. And you can also use other semiconductor, which has different band gap into their material structures. So you can use different materials, okay, to cover all the spectrums. So if you just use the silicon, well, it's not good enough. You need to incorporate all different kind of materials, okay, and also use the nanostructures, okay, nanomaterials to have a high efficiency, to collect all these photons and generate electricity. So what's the principle of the solar cell? Well, the solar cell is kind of semiconductor based. Okay, they use so-called the P-type and N-type semiconductors. So here is just the P-type, and another one is the N-type. Then they sandwich together. Okay, when the photon comes in, it will break the electrons. So the electron will just move to the other side. Okay, and then if empty place there, we call it hole, become positive. Okay, and once this migrate, okay, occur, electron comes here, okay, and leave the positive, the empty place here, then you create a voltage drop. And once you have a voltage drop, then the current starts to flow. Okay, and that's the very simple principle to produce the electricity, okay, using this solar cell. Next page is the detail. Okay, here, okay, you have the N-type, okay, P-type, okay, and once the electrons, okay, is excited due to the photon absorption, okay, and then it migrates to the N-type, and here the P-types stay here, and then create a voltage, and you can have a current floating. See here, here is the nanostructure of your N-type material, and also the nanostructure of surface. It's similar to the LED, okay? The working principle is just the opposite. The LED is inject the current here and then emit light. The solar cell is just the opposite, okay? Just absorb light and emit and then generate the current, electrons. So when the photon comes in, you need to have some surface to let it go directly in, not bounce back. Okay, because any surface will have reflection. We can use nanotechnology to make the surface rough, and so the photon will not go back, but come straight through, and we can capture all the photons. And to make this semiconductor, and we need to make these nanofabrications. Here is the history of solar cell. Okay, maybe some of you know, some of you don't know. Okay. At first, in 1953, Bell Lab first demonstrated this silicon solar cell. It's very expensive. To generate 1 watt, okay, the cost of material is $300. So nobody can able to afford that. Okay. At the time, the power plant can produce, okay, 1 watt just by $1.5. So that's 600 times more. So unless you want to have something portable, okay, which cannot be connected to any electricity wire, then you choose to use the solar cell. So what's the best application? What's the devices you cannot connect with the wire? That's the satellite. Okay. So in the late 50s, okay, the first satellite is launched by US. So at the beginning of the development, okay, they try to decide okay, what's the method we can power the satellite. Well, the Navy, okay, prefer using the nuclear, okay, power because it can last for 30, 40 years, okay, without any refueling, okay. Or they can use some so-called chemical, just the regular cells then to power the satellite. But there are problems for each. Because the nuclear, if the satellite launch is not success, then the nuclear waste will spread, okay, to the atmosphere, and that's not good. And for the chemical power cell, which can only last days, because this is heavy, okay, that's why the electricity cars is not popular yet, because the battery is really, really heavy. But Dr. Ziegler suggests let's use the solar panel to make it, to provide the electricity. And indeed, later the Navy, okay, was persuaded and adopt the solar cell because they can afford very expensive devices because satellite is so important for them. But in the 90s, then people start to make it cheaper, then affordable to the oil company. Okay, so the oil company, they have this so-called sea oil drilling platform outside the shore. So how can they power this platform? They use solar cell. Okay, so they can provide long-term the power supply and for their easy maintenance. But it's still expensive. Okay, until okay 70s and 90s, where the semiconductor industry start to boom. Okay, they use so-called polysilicon, okay, to make the price drop to $20 per watt. So it's about 10 times drop. And then in the 90s and 2000, okay, all this semiconductor industry has newer generations. So what should you do with this old generation or fab? Well, they just use that old fab, okay, to make this silicon solar cell. So they make the they just take the old generation of semiconductor fab to make this semiconductor to make this solar panel. Okay, so they dropped another tech vector. Okay. And in 2000, the nanotechnology is booming, and then we can further make this more efficient and bring down the cost. So what's the application for this solar cell? Okay, well, this solar car, which still look ugly, okay, because 1 meter square provide 1 kilowatts, right? So if you want to have a high speed, then you need to have a large area, okay, to generate enough electricity to accelerate this car. And NASA is able to make the airplane, okay, airplane already, okay. And I think there's a group from Switzerland, okay, they try to fly this solar plane from the U.S. the west coast to the east coast. Okay, so this is available now. Okay, and also the heating system, okay, on the roof. But to be honest, most of the heating system is not using the solar cell panel. Okay, they just use the solar light directly. Okay, this is still not popular. Okay, this is not popular because the panel is still expensive. So how can we make it cheaper? Okay, so people start to think about other alternatives. Well, in the silicon, so they use solar chemicals. Okay, use a dye-sensitized solar cell, which can be flexible. Okay, although the efficiency is not as high as the silicon one, but it can make it cheap in a large area. So let's see. Okay, what kind of materials we can use to cover all the spectrum. Okay, the silicon is right here. Okay, so it's from 500 okay, to 900 nanometer. Visible is right here. Okay, right here. Okay. So cover other things, you have to use different semiconductors. Okay, crystal silicon, okay, amorphous silicon, okay, and the CIS, okay, which will cover another different regimes. Gallium arsenide, okay, will cover the different regimes. So using all different materials, okay, and you can cover different wavelengths. But we have to talk about the efficiency. Okay, for the silicon-based efficiency, well, it's about like the 20, okay, 20 nanometers, okay, 20%, okay, 20%, which is so-called crystalline silicon. Okay, that is, you have to use this kind of like semiconductor grade wafer, okay, to make it. So this is expensive. But people say, hey, I don't need to have that expensive wafer. We can just make some of the wafer that semiconductors think the grade is too low. So they can use, so it's called the best silicon crystal, and crystal silicon, amorphous silicon, to make it, but the efficiency is low, okay, but cheaper. So in order to achieve higher efficiency, okay, people start to think, hey, let's make some other material rather than silicon. Let's make some semiconductors, okay, gallium arsenide and all other things. Okay, the efficiency can be really, really high. Okay, and one layer, okay, can get up to the 30%. So if you have multi-layer, okay, with different wavelengths absorption, then the efficiency could really, really go high. Okay, but this is more expensive than the silicon processing. So if you want to get high efficiency, you have to pay more. Okay, so go to the other extreme, that is low cost. Okay, they can go using this chemical, okay, the dye, okay, dye molecule, where you can dye your clothes, okay, which absorb the visible light. So you can choose different light to absorb different visible wavelengths from the sun. The efficiency, the current breaker is 10%. So it's not as high as semiconductor, but it's much, much cheaper. Okay, and you can also use other things like organic, okay, organic material, which has a very, very low efficiency. Here is the this table, okay, to track the development of different solar cell technology. This is the National Renewable Energy Lab from the US, and they can keep track of all these things. Okay, they group 4 different categories for different materials. Okay, the first is so-called multi-junction cell, using this so-called multi-junction semiconductors. So the efficiency can get up to what? 43% using multi-layer. Okay, one layer at most 30, and you use multi-layer absorb different wavelengths, and then you can go up to 43%. And where it is used the most? In the satellite. Okay, because they can afford very expensive devices. And then for current people use, okay, for the 20% efficiency of solar panel using the silicon, okay, silicon base, okay, which is right here, okay, it's about 20%, okay, 20%. For chip one, okay, they can use the so-called this semiconductor compound, okay, which is not that well, which is also expensive but less expensive because they don't need to use so-called this semiconductor processing. So they can just deposit on the film, okay, and then make it solar panel. Efficiency is not high, but it's cheaper than all this semiconductor technology based. And here comes the nanotechnology one. Okay, the nanotechnology one, the efficiency is not high, but the cost is really, really low. But you can see the efficiency is increasing. So as the technology improves, the efficiency could catch up with all these 3 different categories. All right, so let's talk about the solar panel. Okay, this is the first generation silicon. Okay, which just use the wafer. Okay, this is very high quality silicon crystal. Okay, and you slice it, so you can make the panel. Okay, from each slice. And here is the last crystallized wafer. Okay, which is not precise. Okay, so the wafer has some defects, so the efficiency is not as high as this high quality single crystal silicon. Okay. Here, even full quality, okay, they can make a thin film, okay, on a flexible one, but the efficiency is low. So this is the first generation silicon based. And next slide shows how you can draw all this kind of silicon wafer. Here you can use the silicon to heat it, okay, and become liquid, and then you can use the seed, okay, and to pull it up and spin so it becomes this wafer. And then you slice it, and then make the solar panel, okay. You have to put the P-type, N-type there, okay, and then put the wires, connect it so they can capture the photons and then become the electricity. Okay, so the advantage is that it's high efficient. Okay, black breaker is 24% for one layer. Okay, and for the mass production currently, okay, in the fab, okay, in the manufacturers, it's about 80%. So it's not too bad, not too bad. So 1 millimeter you can get what 180 watts. Okay, and it's mature technology, so it borrowed from semiconductor industry. So all this crystal growth, wafer production, and PN junction for doping is available. So they can just borrow this mature technology from the semiconductor, and they can use the old generation of their fab, okay, to produce the solar panel. Okay. And it's also high reliability because it has been used for 40 years, okay, 20 years, okay, in all areas. Okay. Right. So second generation of the solar cells, okay, using the thin film processing. Okay, there are different types. The polycrystal silicon, amorphous silicon, and different kinds of semiconductors. Okay. And here just shows that they don't use the fab processing, but very simple. Okay, they can use just the printing processing and to put all these materials on a flexible substrate, okay, on the roof. Okay. And here using the CIS, okay, copper indium selenide, okay, and to put building surface. Okay, so it looks really nice. Okay, very nice. And the cost is much cheaper than the silicon crystalline based silicon. So what can we improve upon that? Okay. The third generation, okay, starting from year 2000, okay, they include organic material and nanotechnology. Okay, types like the organic polymer solar cell, which is quite flexible, and dye-sensitized solar cell, and nanoparticle composite solar cell. Okay, so let's see. So organic, okay, which is a molecule level, you can just grow, okay, which is just 100 nanometer thick. Okay, you can coat it on any like plastic. When the photon comes in, it's just like a PN type semiconductor. Okay, and you can just dope the organic, just make it like a semiconductor. So it's flexible, and you can manufacture it in a low temperature, okay, and process it in a low temperature at low cost. Then you can make it large area. So this is nanotechnology, okay, grow it. Another one is so-called dye-sensitized solar cell, okay. You can just put a dye, which will make the color in your clothes, okay, which is low cost, okay, very low cost of material, and very easy to process, okay. This is the electrode, okay, which need to have some rough surface using nanotechnology to have a large contact area, so you can extract more electrons from it, okay. And the cost is just 1/10 of the silicon-based solar cell. Okay. And the advantage is another thing is it's semi-transparent. Okay. So the efficiency is not high, so it means a lot of things will transmit it. Okay. And those transmitted light, well, it's good for the building. Okay. So we can put this semi-transparent solar panel around your building, so it becomes like the windows and become flexible. Okay, flexible. So this using the dye-sensitized solar cell will start to see some applications in this architecture. Okay. So the efficiency can improve. Okay, with one layer, okay, the best is like 30%. Okay, so if you have multi-layer, okay, you should expect to get very high efficiency. Okay, but for this technology, the efficiency is low, but it's really cheap. Okay, so you can go down to what? $0.2 per watt, okay, which is 1,000 times drop from the very beginning of the silicon-based solar cell. All right, and actually the most efficient one is so-called photosynthesis. Okay, but people hasn't been able to do this yet. Okay, but keep in mind. Okay. All right. Should I continue or let's take a break? You ready? Take a break. Okay. All right. So let's take 5 to 10 minutes break.